The training habitat dome stretched 3 kilometers in every direction, filled with artificial jungle that looked and smelled exactly like the death worlds most species try to avoid. Instructor Van watched his students through the observation window. His forearms crossed in a way that meant he was either thinking hard or getting ready to fail someone. Probably both. 20 cadets sat in the briefing room representing 12 different species from across the galaxy. Most of them had claws, fangs, armored skin, or enhanced senses that evolution spent millions of years perfecting. Then there was Daniel Brooks, who looked like he would lose a fight with a strong breeze. Bren's voice cut through the nervous chatter. Your final examination begins today. Each of you will enter the habitat alone and neutralize one ravager beast. The creature must be captured or subdued without killing it. You have 6 hours. Failure means repeating the entire semester. A Turo named Grath flexed his massive arms. His species had natural armor plating that could stop most weapons. Finally, a real challenge. My people have hunted worse things for sport. Quickclaw, a Salvani with razor-sharp natural blades along her forearms, hissed in agreement. Speed and precision. The beast will not even see me coming. Daniel said nothing. He checked his equipment carefully, making sure every strap was secure and every tool was within easy reach. The other students had been watching him for weeks, waiting for him to quit or fail. Humans were new to the Galactic Academy, and most species still thought of them as the kind of creatures you protected, not the kind you trained for combat. Bren explained the rules in detail. Standard equipment included a stunner rifle, tracking sensors, protective armor, and emergency beacons. The Ravager was a bioengineered predator used across the galaxy for security, work, and dangerous hunts. It had enhanced sensors, natural weapons, and enough intelligence to set ambushes. The creature learns from each encounter, Friend continued. It will be more dangerous for each student who faces it. Choose your order wisely. Grath volunteered immediately. His confidence filled the room like bad cologne. I will show you how Turk warriors handle predators. 3 hours later, Grath limped back through the habitat entrance with deep claw marks across his armor, and his pride shattered into small pieces. The Ravager had waited in ambush, using the jungle terrain to avoid Grath's strength advantage. He never even got close enough to use his stunner. Quickclaw went next, certain her speed would succeed where strength had failed. She returned in 2 hours, bleeding from multiple lacerations and empty-handed. The Ravager had matched her speed and fought with a fury that shocked everyone watching. 5 more students tried. 5 more students failed. The observation room grew quieter with each failure. The Ravager was learning, adapting, becoming more aggressive with each encounter. Daniel sat in the back, watching every attempt on the monitor screens. He took notes in a small waterproof notebook, the kind that didn't rely on technology that could fail. While other students bragged or complained, he studied patterns. The Ravager's behavior, its preferred ambush points, the way it reacted to different approaches. It's defending territory, Daniel said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. Friend's hearing was excellent. Explain, Cadet Brooks. The students are invading its space. The Ravager thinks it's protecting its home. That's why it's getting more aggressive. It's not hunting them. It's driving them away. Several students laughed. A Dray named Sharpsense, whose species had hearing that could detect heartbeats from 50 meters away, shook his head. The human thinks the monster has feelings. How adorable. Ren didn't laugh. His 4 eyes focused on Daniel with new interest. You believe this changes the approach needed? Yes, sir. If it's territorial defense, going in aggressive just confirms you're a threat. You have to speak a different language. And what language is that? Daniel stood up and gathered his gear. I'll show you. I'm ready for my attempt. The other students whispered among themselves. Some placed bets on how quickly the human would fail. Others wondered if he would even survive. Bren studied Daniel for a long moment. The human looked calm, almost relaxed. No bravado, no fear displays, just quiet focus. The Ravager is highly agitated now. Cadet Brooks, 7 students have entered its territory today. It will be extremely dangerous. I understand, sir. Do you require additional equipment? Daniel looked at the standard loadout one more time. Stunner rifle, tracking sensors, armor plating, emergency beacon. He made a decision that caused several gasps in the observation room. He removed 2 of the chest armor plates, setting them aside. The armor made noise when you moved, and noise meant the ravager would hear you coming from a kilometer away. That is unwise, Bren said carefully. Maybe, but I won't need it if this works. And if it doesn't work, Daniel smiled slightly. It wasn't the confident smile of someone who thought they couldn't fail. It was the quiet smile of someone who had done dangerous things before and survived by being smart, instead of strong. Then I'll use my emergency beacon and accept the failure, sir. But I think I know something about this situation that everyone else missed. Ren gave permission. With a gesture of his upper right arm, the habitat door opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The artificial jungle waited beyond, hot and humid and full of places for a predator to hide. Daniel stepped through the entrance and immediately moved to the side, out of the obvious path. He knelt down and pressed his hand against the soil, feeling the texture and moisture. Then he did something that made absolutely no sense to anyone watching. He reached into his pack, pulled out a small container of dirt and local plant matter he had collected from the academy grounds during his free time, and rubbed it over his arms, neck, and clothing, masking his scent, the way hunters back on Earth did when tracking dangerous animals. Grath's voice came through the observation room speakers. What is the human doing? Is he performing some kind of ritual? Friends, mandibles clicked together softly, the Calathi equivalent of a thoughtful hum. No, he is hunting. Watch carefully. I believe we are about to learn something new. Daniel moved into the jungle, each step deliberate and measured. He avoided the trails that other students had used. Instead, he picked his way through the thicker vegetation, moving slowly enough that his passage barely disturbed the plants around him. Behind him, the entrance sealed shut. Ahead of him, somewhere in 3 kilometers of artificial wilderness, a very angry predator waited. The exam had begun. 20 minutes passed before Daniel moved more than 50 meters into the habitat. Any other student would have charged ahead, trying to find the ravager quickly and end the exam. Daniel moved like someone who understood that rushing toward a predator was a good way to become prey. He stopped every few steps to listen and observe. The jungle was full of recorded sounds, bird calls, and insect noises that made it feel alive. But Daniel wasn't listening to those. He was listening for the sounds that didn't belong. The spaces where the artificial animals went quiet because something dangerous had passed through. There, about 200 m to his left, a section of the jungle had gone silent. Daniel changed direction, angling away from the quiet zone instead of toward it. The ravager was territorial, and territorial predators patrolled their boundaries. If he followed the edge of the silence, he would find where the creature had passed. Back in the observation room, Academy Administrator Pellies had joined Venda. Administrators' species communicated, partly through color changes in their skin. And right now, Pellies was showing deep purple confusion. Why is the human moving away from the predator's location? Pellies asked. He is tracking, Ren replied. Watch. Daniel found what he was looking for after another 10 minutes of careful movement. Claw marks on a tree trunk exactly the right height and depth. Fresh sap still oozed from the cuts. The ravager had marked this tree within the last hour, claiming territory. But there was something else. Daniel knelt down and examined the marks more carefully. One of the claw cuts was different from the others, slightly angled and less deep. He pulled out a small sample kit from his pack and carefully collected a tiny amount of the fluid from that particular mark. His portable scanner analyzed it quickly. Blood mixed with the sap along with markers indicating infection. One of the ravager's claws was damaged, probably from its fight with Quick Claw. The injury would make the creature even more defensive and dangerous. It's hurt, Daniel said softly to himself. That changes everything. He left the stunner rifle strapped to his pack. If the ravager was injured and scared, seeing a weapon would only make it more aggressive. Instead, he pulled out his medical kit and his emergency rations. The next hour tested everyone's patience. Daniel moved in a wide circle around the ravager's territory, occasionally stopping to leave small portions of his rations on rocks or fallen logs. Not a trail leading to him, but offerings scattered throughout the area. Food given freely with no demands attached. Grath growled in frustration from the observation room. This is foolish. He should be hunting the creature, not feeding it. Perhaps, Friend said quietly. Or perhaps he understands something about predators that you do not. Daniel finally found the ravager's den. A natural depression beneath a massive root system that provided shelter and concealment. He could smell the creature from 30 m away. A mix of musk and blood that told him the ravager was definitely inside and definitely injured. He didn't approach the den directly. Instead, he settled down against a tree about 40 m away, in a spot where he had clear line of sight to the entrance, but was far enough away to seem non-threatening. Then he simply sat and waited. An hour passed, then two. Daniel didn't move except to occasionally shift his weight and drink water. He kept his hands visible and empty, making no threatening gestures. His breathing was slow and steady, the pattern that humans used when they wanted to stay calm and appear harmless. The students watching grew restless. Sharpsense hissed in frustration. He is doing nothing. This is a waste of time. He is doing everything necessary. Ven corrected. He is showing the ravager that he is not a threat. 3 hours into Daniel's exam, the den entrance showed movement. 2 eyes reflected in the dim light, watching the human who sat so still and quiet. Daniel saw the eyes but didn't react. He didn't stare directly at them, didn't move toward them, didn't make any gesture that could be interpreted as aggressive. Instead, he very slowly reached into his pack and pulled out one of his rations. He unwrapped it deliberately, letting the smell carry on the slight breeze, and took a small bite. Then he placed the rest of the ration on the ground in front of him and scooted backward a few meters, leaving the food between himself and the ravager. The eyes disappeared back into the den. Daniel waited. 15 minutes later, the eyes returned. This time, they came with a body. The ravager emerged slowly from its den, every muscle tense and ready to fight or flee. It was smaller than Daniel had expected, maybe 2 m long, with scales that shifted colors to blend with the jungle. Beautiful and dangerous. Daniel noticed the damaged paw immediately. The ravager was favoring its left front leg, holding it at an angle that kept weight off the injured claw. The limping predator approached the food Daniel had left, sniffed it carefully, and then swallowed it in one quick gulp. Daniel stayed perfectly still. The ravager stared at him for a long moment, then retreated back to its den with the same cautious movements. Progress, Daniel whispered. He repeated the process. Food offered, distance maintained, patience exercised. The ravager came out twice more over the next hour, each time getting slightly closer before retreating. The fourth time, it didn't retreat immediately after eating. Instead, it sat down about 10 meters from Daniel and watched him. Daniel began talking, his voice soft and low. That paw looks bad. Probably hurts to walk on it. Makes you cranky, doesn't it? I understand. I broke my ankle once tracking a grizzly bear. Made me cranky, too. The ravager's head tilted slightly, processing the strange sounds. The translator embedded in the habitat ceiling converted Daniel's words into basic concepts that any intelligent creature could understand, though the tone carried meaning beyond the words. You've had a rough day. 7. Students barging into your space. All of them trying to fight you. Nobody asked if you were okay. Nobody checked if you needed help. Daniel slowly reached into his pack again, this time pulling out his medical scanner. I can help with that paw if you'll let me, but that's your choice. The ravager made a sound between a growl and a whimper. Pain and uncertainty mixed together. Daniel held up the scanner where the creature could see it, then very slowly activated it. The device hummed softly and projected a harmless light beam. He scanned his own hand first, demonstrating that the tool didn't cause pain, then held it steady and waited. The ravager stood up, took one hesitant step forward, then another. It was close enough now that Daniel could have reached out and touched it. Close enough that one swipe of those claws could have ended the exam permanently. Daniel activated his communication link to the observation room. Friend's voice came through immediately. Cadet Brooks, report your status. I'm fine, sir, but I need Clarification on the exam parameters. Proceed. Daniel kept his eyes on the ravager, his voice steady and calm. Do you want it alive or in pieces? Because I can do either one. But one of those options is cruel and unnecessary. Your choice, sir. The observation room went completely silent. Pelaz's skin flashed bright orange shock. Grath's jaw hung open. Quicklaw's blades extended unconsciously in surprise. Wren's mandibles clicked several times before he responded. Explain your question, cadet. This creature is injured and scared. 7 students tried to force it into submission through violence. I can continue that pattern and probably succeed. With enough tranquilizer, darts and tactical advantage. Or I can treat the injury. Show the ravager that not everyone is a threat and achieve actual neutralization through cooperation. The exam said neutralize, not dominate. So which result do you want? A long pause followed. Finally, Wren spoke. The exam parameters allow for any method that achieves safe neutralization. Proceed as you see fit, Cadet Brooks. Daniel smiled slightly. Thank you, sir. Brooks out. He turned his full attention back to the ravager, which had been watching this entire exchange with intelligent eyes. Okay, friend. Let's take a look at that paw. I promise this won't hurt any more than it already does. The ravager took one more step forward, lowering its head in a gesture that wasn't quite submission, but definitely wasn't aggression. Daniel reached out slowly, palm up, offering connection instead of demanding it. The ravager's breath was hot against Daniel's extended hand. For several heartbeats, nothing happened. The predator's eyes studied the human, calculating risk and reward, in ways that millions of years of evolution had, programmed into its bioengineered brain. Then, slowly, the ravager pressed its snout against Daniel's palm. Not aggressive, not playful, just simple contact. Acknowledgement. Good. Daniel breathed. That's good. Now, let me see that paw. He moved with the same deliberate slowness that had defined his entire approach. Every motion was telegraphed, predictable, non-threatening. He shifted his position to get a better angle on the injured limb. And the ravager tracked his movement, but didn't retreat. The medical scanner showed what Daniel had suspected. The claw wasn't just damaged, it was infected. The fight with Quicklaw had driven dirt and bacteria deep into the tissue. Without treatment, the infection would spread. The ravager wasn't just defending its territory. It was in constant pain. This is going to sting, Daniel warned, pulling out an antiseptic applicator from his medical kit. But it'll feel better afterward. Trust me. Trust. What a strange concept to apply to a bioengineered predator in the middle of an exam. But Daniel had learned long ago that trust wasn't exclusive to humans or even to naturally evolved species. Anything with enough intelligence to feel pain could also understand relief. He applied the antiseptic in quick, efficient movements. The ravager growled, a low rumble that vibrated through the jungle floor. But it didn't pull away. Its muscles tensed, ready to strike, but the strike never came. I know. Daniel kept talking, his voice a steady anchor of calm. It hurts now, but that's the medicine killing the infection. Just a few more seconds. Back in the observation room, Pelaz's skin had shifted from shocked orange to fascinated green. This is unprecedented. The creature should have attacked by now. Bren's 4 remained fixed on the screen. The human has established himself as a healer, not a threat. The ravager recognizes the difference. Impossible, Sharpsense insisted. It is a predator. It does not understand such concepts. Then explain what we are watching, Ven replied simply. Daniel finished cleaning the wound and moved to the next step. He pulled out a regenerative bandage, the kind that would stimulate tissue repair and prevent further infection. Applying it required actually touching the injured paw, holding it steady while the bandage sealed itself around the wound. Okay, friend, this is the part where you really have to trust me, Daniel said, reaching for the paw. I need to hold this still for about 10 seconds while the bandage sets. Can you do that for me? The ravager's eyes narrowed, its free claws flexed, gouging small furrows in the dirt. Every instinct the creature had probably screamed at it to run or fight, to not let this strange, soft being hold its injured limb. Daniel waited, hand extended but not grabbing. Offering not taking, the ravager made a decision. It lifted its injured paw slightly, a gesture of permission that made several students gasp in the observation room. Daniel gently took the paw in both hands. The scales were warm and surprisingly smooth. He could feel the tension in the limb, the way the ravager was ready to yank it back at any sign of danger. But Daniel just held it steady, applied the bandage, and counted to 10. 1, 2, 3. He counted out loud, partly to track time, and partly to maintain the vocal connection. 4, 5, 6, almost done. 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. All finished. He released the paw immediately, not holding on a moment longer than necessary, respecting boundaries. The ravager pulled its limb back, examined the bandage with clear suspicion, then gingerly put weight on it. The pain relief must have been immediate and obvious. The ravager's entire posture changed. The defensive tension melted away, replaced by something that looked almost like surprise. It took a few experimental steps, testing the injured paw, and for the first time since Daniel had entered the habitat, the creature moved without limping. Feels better, doesn't it? Daniel smiled. Modern medicine is pretty amazing. The ravager sat down, not in a defensive crouch, but in something closer to a relaxed position. It studied Daniel with what could only be described